Hello, I'm Soul with a basic guide on how to make gold in World of Warcraft Shadowlands if you are newer to the game, or if you're broke. I'm going to hold your hand in a non-threatening, politically acceptable don't cancel me kind of way, and help you on your first steps down 3 paths towards making gold. That is to do daily content, farm for materials, and to play the auction house all on a basic level. There are no tricks, there's no RNG really, no exploits here, just some sound advice and a little bit of elbow grease on your part, and you will be well on your way to making your WoW life just a little bit easier. And maybe to move on to more involved gold guides, there are plenty out there. But first, let's get all the bad habits out of the way. Stop spending gold. After all, you're new, or you're broke for whatever reason. 99.9% of the time, that mount that you want isn't going to go away from the vendor. You don't need to use transmog to change your appearance every day, just maybe every other day. That bind on equip item in the auction house, that little upgrade probably isn't worth it either. And you might want to rethink just how many potions that you're using in that dungeon or in that raid encounter. The easiest and least involved method of gold making in WoW, I guess the most boring way too, is to just do whatever the heck daily content is being spoon-fed to us. You know, the things that we're already doing. Every day, roughly 2,000 or so, 2 grand of gold is up for grabs from the Covenant Calling. The difficulty of these Covenant Callings range from trivial to extra trivial, and you have 3 days to complete them. Sometimes they line up with one another. They let you complete 2, maybe 3 callings in quick succession, saving you a ton of time. This puts you up on the board with roughly like 15 grand that you can make in a week between the drops that you get and you vendor. Maybe you do a few world quests for gold, cool beans. If your renown level is at 40, which it might be right now, collecting 1,000 anima each week will score you 1,500 gold from that weekly quest, adding to your weekly income. The Covenant mission table is a low-key gold mine too. Don't be fooled by the couple hundred gold that you get from these missions, but don't ignore them either. Just try to send one follower accompanied with troops whenever you can. The mission cost is pretty cheap. You may want to use an add-on like Venture Plan to help you out with this. A link to that add-on is in the description below. The real gold, though, comes from completing the missions for resources, notably the ones that drop herbs and meat and fish. The grand prize, though, comes from these augment runes that go for at least a few hundred a pop. On my realm, they go for this much here, and they move fast if you post them at the right time. The work that goes into this mission table is pretty darn low. You can quickly jump between alts to run them, even use a mobile device when you're away from your computer. So on a high average, this can add about 10 or so grand to your weekly income per character, assuming, of course, that these items will sell. And odds are fairly good that they will. If you're invested into your Covenant's activity, that's potentially more money in your pocket. Take the Kyrian, for example. They can produce the Sky Strider Glider, an item that activates a rare in Bastion that when killed has a high chance of dropping a mount. Right now, at least on my realm, it's worth a little bit under 4 grand. Each of the Covenant activities produce resources that can be traded and sold and are pretty well worth the effort. Now before we move on, let's talk a little bit about selling things on the auction house itself. It seems a little bit intimidating, right? Like the idea of posting something and hoping that it goes for a good price, or hoping that it goes at all. These days, it's much easier to safely post with just a couple of clicks. Prices will vary depending on your realm, but this guide will work with materials that, for the most part, people want and need. Let's post a few of these materials that we received from the mission table. All we have to do is go to an auction house in a capital city, a hub, or an auction house mount if you happen to see one lying around. From here, all you need to do is right-click one of these materials. The item will be staged with the price set to the same price as the cheapest listed item shown here. So feel free to adjust the amount that you want to sell, change the value of the item over here, and set the duration to whatever you like. I personally always have it set to 12 hours, and then click on Create Auction to post. It's pretty simple. No add-ons needed, except for your eyeballs. Now let's move on and get to some more hands-on work. We're going to gather, and I'm going to provide my expertise on gathering, specifically with herbalism. Now, herbs are great. They're almost always in demand, and they can go for a pretty high price, and they're just hanging out on the ground for your convenience. Obviously, in the expansion that you're in right now, Shadowlands, you'll pretty much want to gather everything that you see and then sell it. But this guide won't be focusing on Shadowlands. Instead, we're going to be turning our attention towards the Legion expansion and one of the most versatile herbs in the game, Dreamleaf. Dreamleaf is the main source of how the inscription profession produces some of their coolest and most popular glyphs, and we're going to be making money off of them. I'll get right into explaining what to do, starting with learning how to herb at max efficiency. You need at least a level 50 character. Wearing gloves that have the Legion Herbalism enchant makes you gather faster. If you can be a Tauren, even better, because you can gather even faster. If you can be a Tauren Druid, oh, that's masterclass, but it's not exactly necessary. It just helps a lot though. Go to Dalaran in the Broken Isles and learn Herbalism if you haven't already. Flying in the Broken Isles only requires riding training, which you ought to have by now at least. So go ahead and fly over to Val'sharah, it's to the northwest, and pick up one Dreamleaf node thing. For whatever reason, you need to pick an herb to actually learn Legion Herbalism, but oh well. You're going to be in Val'sharah for a little while, repeating this pattern of gathering and questing a number of times to get your Dreamleaf gathering skill to rank 3, which lets you gather Dreamleaf like a total gangster. Yeah, like a gangster. Now you have a character primed for farming Dreamleaf. And from here, there are two main farming options. In Val'sharah, just outside of Darkheart Thicket, are elemental flower things that you can kill, and you can skin them for materials. On rare occasions, you can also loot Blood of Sargeras, which you can go back to Dalaran and trade in for more Dreamleaf, which is very nice. This area has its uptime and downtime depending on the time of day, as in people, and the same goes for people farming this area in war mode. But if you have the opportunity, spend some time here for some pretty easy farming and relatively fast spawns. The other farming area is Darkheart Thicket itself. Dive right into the dungeon, preferably in normal mode, and make your way towards the first boss. You can be mounted in this instance, and if you're at max level, you can skip most of the mobs here pretty easily. If not, you can easily fight your way through too. Now, just past the first boss, which you can skip by the way, if you happen to be at max level, just past the first boss are a series of mobs including, guess what, these flower mobs, just like outside, that you can skin. Going through this area will score you about 14 of these mobs. You just need to run all the way down, probably down this road to get the patrol, and then come on back and into this corner here behind the house to grab a few more mobs and to line of sight all these mobs together. From there, do your thing, press buttons, etc., and then start looting. This area might be inhabited by a world quest on occasion, which means fewer elementals that will spawn, but this still leaves you with at least 10 or so mobs to skin uncontested. If you happen to be a druid, once you're done looting, you can use the Dreamwalk ability to warp to the Emerald Dreamway, and then use that same spell again to instantly teleport just outside of Darkheart Thicket, free to reset the instance, and then do this thing again. Just keep in mind that you can only run 10 unique instances in an hour across your entire account, so just be careful doing this before like a raid or something. Also feel free to do a lap around the area outside Darkheart Thicket to help stretch out one more instance reset. A run and a lap, it only takes a few minutes, and it's going to score you roughly 75 to 100 Dreamleaf, which is a pretty good amount. If you don't want to make your life complicated, you can stop here and sell the Dreamleaf as is if you're happy with the price. If you have a character with the inscription profession though, you have more options. You can mill Dreamleaf for inscription materials that might sell even better than just selling the Dreamleaf on its own. But from here we're starting to get into mathy territory, and this is just a basic guide. I'm just letting you know that there are some pretty lucrative opportunities if you pay attention. Dreamleaf itself continues to be relevant even 2 expansions later. It's a solid herb that's easy to farm and has a lot of hidden value. It's a great jumping off point for anyone who has the extra time to gather, but not that much extra time. Finally, let's get into the very basics of playing the auction house, which is arguably the riskiest, but also the fastest and least labor-intensive way of making gold in the World of Warcraft. The premise is pretty simple, right? Buy low, sell high. But in most cases, you need a lot of intimate knowledge about WoW in order to make an informed investment and to make snap decisions just in case. Now, I already talked about Dreamleaf and how the materials that you get from breaking it down are potentially more profitable than Dreamleaf itself. But here's a really simple exercise that you can try out on your realm. Just go to the auction house and look up the following items: Umbral Ink and Sallow Pigment. You could also hit that little star button on the right side so you can favorite them and you can see them right away as soon as you open the auction house. Now, these are both inscription materials from Shadowlands and Legion respectively. And I can't stress this enough, prices may vary on your realm, but at least here on my realm, Umbral Ink's price averages at about 50 gold per item, and Sallow Pigment averages a little over twice that amount. Meanwhile, ink traders that are located near inscription trainers accept Umbral Ink to exchange for older inscription materials, including Sallow Pigment. And this trade is done on a 1-to-1 ratio. Sallow Pigment, by the way, is used for Legion glyphs. So I hope you can see the connection that I'm trying to make here. I admit that the sale of Sallow Pigment is not that high on my realm, but it does move, making this flip from Umbral Ink to Sallow Pigment something to pay attention to on your realm. From here, you can branch out to other possibilities like buying out all the Dreamleaf to inflate all the prices, and even getting into crafting cosmetic glyphs yourself. But I'm going to stop myself here so you can soak in some of this information and, of course, leave room for you to ask questions or to leave comments. There are tons of opportunities out there for gold, and this really, I'm just scratching the surface. For any of you pros who happen to watch this whole video for some reason, leave a few basic tips for viewers too, because we're all just trying to help each other out. For now though, let's get out of here. Please like the video if it was helpful, subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft, and we'll see you later. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.